Welcome, guys, to Puro Pinche Sports. This is our video edition. This is our first one, so if we look stupid as hell doing it, guys, please do enjoy it. I mean, no matter what, you know who we are. I'm Jose Garza. That's my cousin, Marco Monreal. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. How are you?
Man, I'm feeling good. Just the weekend of sports, Marco. We had MMA fights, the first UFC event of 2021. We had some football going on Saturday and Sunday. It was fantastic. The Spurs got a nice little win on Saturday too. So I felt overwhelmed with joy and happiness. And of course, then there was my family on the side too. I got to hang out with them. So, all there and well. So Marco, on this exclusive that we're going to do aside from doing the podcast, guys, to make it a point, we are now going to be talking to you also through video. So instead of making super long freaking episodes, we're also going to be doing some topics on the side just exclusively for video, so y'all can see us, reactions. You can see how Marco's disappointed in me, how stupid I think he looks, stuff like that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed. This topic today is going to be about Max Holloway. Blessed Max Holloway. That man is a beast. He's a former UFC featherweight champion. He's a former UFC lightweight title contender. Yes, so we're going to be talking about his fight this past Saturday night, or in the evening, against Calvin Kattar at UFC Fight Island 7. And we're also going to be talking about a big debate that we've been having. Did Max win either both his fights against Alexander Volkanovski, or did he lose both fights? Or 1-1? We're going to have a good time debating about this. It might get heated. Someone might get slapped again. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. But let's just enjoy. Marco, let's move along with Blessed is Best.
Blessed is best.
Max Holloway, the number 1 ranked featherweight in the UFC, went on and destroyed, eviscerated the number 6 ranked Calvin Kattar. It took 5 whole rounds. It didn't stop him. Props to Calvin Kattar. But Blessed came out, threw out 746 strikes, landed 447. Insane, Marco. Your thoughts on what is your favorite fighter of the UFC?
He is indeed my favorite fighter in the UFC. I got his merch. Shout out to him. Just an impressive performance, man. I didn't expect at the magnitude at the work rate which he fought, which we know Max Holloway, he fights continuously. He keeps throwing punches. He doesn't really stop throughout the fight. His stamina is ridiculous. But I didn't think he was going to break some records like he did on Saturday. So it was just amazing to watch. It was amazing to see. He completely tore him apart for all 5 rounds. He completely dominated the whole time. Insignificant strikes and everything you can even in any category you probably could think of. Max had the upper hand. He completely dominated. And I think we have to point out what an amazing part, right? Where he's talking to Cormier on the freaking the announcer desk while he's fighting, and he does a no-look punch and hits the guy, and then he dodges like 4 or 5 punches. I mean, it just tells you that this guy is probably the greatest fighter in the featherweight division. And he's the GOAT of the featherweight division. I'm gonna say it right now. He's the GOAT, and it's just amazing, Jose.
Oh, right there, I'm already gonna argue with you. Conor McGregor is the GOAT. He beat Max Holloway and beat Jose Aldo. If you want to talk about GOAT discussions, he beat them both. End of story there on my part.
Well, early Max Holloway career, it would be interesting to see him drop down and weight to the featherweight.
And you could argue that was early Conor McGregor career too.
Early Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway is a completely different fighter to where he was a few years ago compared to who he is now. Compared to Conor, I mean, you could say he's a different fighter, but Conor would never drop down to that weight again and fight Max Holloway. If that matchup ever happens, they're gonna meet at 155.
Yes, and in that same scenario, Dustin Poirier defeated Max Holloway.
Great fight.
Great fight. But he beat him, and it convinced Dana and others to maybe believe that Max probably should not go back to 155. I beg to differ. I think Max has a better shot.
He'd beat most of those guys.
It was his first lightweight fight going into the UFC. Dustin Poirier, Diamond, is just a beast as it is. But we'll see this Saturday. We'll have Conor McGregor face off Dustin Poirier in a rematch, this time at the lightweight division. And if Conor wins, my argument's going to stand that I think he'd still beat Max Holloway. But overall, Marco, over here on my left, guys, his right, I got the stats right here. 274 hits to the head of Calvin Kattar. Bro, I wish you were in the hospital. 117 strikes to the body, 54 to the leg. I mean, per round, you break it down, Marco, he categorically just destroyed, eviscerated. The fourth round, where he landed 141 strikes, where it should have honestly been finished, and a lot of people, including myself on Twitter, were saying, Herb, finish it, it's done. Calvin should not take any more punishment. But it wasn't meant to be. Calvin still kept fighting. It might have been honestly something Calvin had discussed with his corner and said, hey, guys, my team, I don't want to quit. Do not throw in the towel.
And shout out to Calvin, right? Like, tremendous effort to just stay in there and show his willpower as a competitor. Like, I mean, my hats off are out to him, because I don't think anybody else would have stood there like he did for 5 rounds being a punching bag, because that's what he was. He did have some strike. I think Kattar did everything right offensively, because he did hit Max sometimes, man. Like, he really did. He had some strikes on him. I think because Kattar's fighting style was the big punt, the big right hand, right, the big right overhand right, and he was hitting it, but Max was eating him. Like, he really was. And going into this fight, a lot of people thought, you know what, Kattar's gonna win. He's gonna hit him with that overhand right. A lot of people were doubting Max, and Max had a statement to prove after what's happened in his past 2 fights against Volkanovski. And I think wanting to secure, and I think it was either to finish him, because Max goes out to finish all of his opponents. He doesn't want it to go to the scorecards, and we all know the way Max Holloway fights. But I think he just wanted to prove something to the judges, and just to make it a unanimous decision, like, or knock him out. So I think, I think he did what he could do. He was a punching bag out there, but my respects to him.
Calvin Kattar, the reason a lot of people propped what was going on with Kattar, you got to remember Holloway's last few fights, all of his last fights, unless you're talking about the Ortega fight, up until that point have been going all 5-round decisions. So Calvin Kattar, who had fought Zabit before, guys, I don't know what Zabit's last name is, or at least I don't know how to pronounce it, and I'm not here to butcher it, okay? So he had been able to take it to Zabit. Had he had 2 more rounds, he could have probably beaten Zabit. It was a 3-round fight. That's why people were propping Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar is an amazing fighter, very good fighter.
Yeah.
Number 6 ranked is right. He could probably move up one day in the future. Just right now, Max is the best. Max is blessed. I mean,
This is the best Max Holloway I think I've seen.
Yeah, it could arguably be so. You're absolutely right. It's definitely the one that had the most volume, the most strike accuracy, the most dangerous Max that we have seen. One that I argue we haven't seen since the Brian Ortega fight, since the beating he took from Dustin Poirier, which is why me and you argue so much, and we're going to argue in about a bit, that I don't believe Max Holloway defeated Alexander Volkanovski in either one or the second fight. That's why I'm going with it. The numbers show it. What I saw the fight 4 times, so we'll go from there. So let's move on from the Calvin Kattar fight. There's not really much to say. Over 700 punches thrown, over 440 landed. That case is closed. If we want to argue, if we believe that Max Holloway deserves a title shot, the UFC featherweight title shot, there is no denying it. It's undisputed that this man deserves a title shot.
Volkanovski will go against Brian Ortega, and the winner of that will face Max Holloway.
Absolutely. Max will see somebody he's familiar with. 3rd time Volkanovski or a rematch with Ortega. But let's move on with it. Marco, you want to argue that? Let me ask you this. Do you believe Max won the first fight?
I believe Max won the second fight.
Okay, so you don't believe he won the first fight?
I think the first fight was really close. I think it could have gone either way.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, for those who don't remember, the first fight, a lot of people don't know who Volkanovski is. He had just beaten Jose Aldo. Very small guy. Probably underestimated him because, it's Max. He's been running through the division for a long time. At that point, he hasn't lost a featherweight fight since Conor McGregor, and that's a really long time. And in that fight, Max had a torn ACL. Actually, both men had torn ACLs, and they still went at it the whole way. It was one-sided because it went 30-27. It was one-sided, but that was his last loss. And since then, he beat like 4 or 5 scrubs, and then he started picking up the names. And then he got Jose Aldo, who had just reclaimed the featherweight title from Frankie Edgar after it was vacated by Conor. Then he beat him again to establish that he is the better fighter than Jose Aldo. And then we just saw him do what he did to Brian Ortega, to what he did himself to Frankie Edgar. But Marco, and I saw this, how the first fight, the strikes to the head and the leg kicks were what the combinations the first 3 rounds Alexander Volkanovski had on Max. Max was not expected to, because Max, we know him, he had great feet, likes to move around, go everywhere. He has the range, he can hit you. But Volkanovski was able to get the points that he needed in the first fight. I called it first 3 rounds, the last 2 to Max. After he finally figured it out, it was just too late at that point. 48-47, Max Holloway. How did you go with that first fight?
I agree. I agree that way, right there. Okay. I think the Volkanovski's leg kicks did hurt Max, and it was noticeable the effect it was having on him and his legs and his movement. And I think that's the way Volkanovski controlled the fight, that first fight.
Yeah, and in the first fight, guys, Volkanovski outstruck the first 3 rounds Holloway, and then the last 2, Holloway barely outstruck Volkanovski in the last 2, but like I said, 48-47. Let me show you right here, Marco. The first fight, 67 strikes to the head. Volkanovski versus Max Holloway at 85 for Max Holloway. So Holloway hit the most on the head, but of course Volkanovski's a short man, very short. So it's probably the most easiest for him to strike. The body, Max outstruck him again, oddly enough. But the one that was a major landslide was the legs, 75-17. And he outstruck him 157 to 135. That is huge. Like, for someone like Max, who we just praised his volume, praised of what he's been able to do, about how he threw about 500 strikes to Ortega, over 700 to Calvin Kattar, and to be reduced to only be able to throw about 300 and land less than half against Volkanovski. That shows you Volkanovski is not the guy who backs down after getting hit from Max. His opponents, Max's opponents, they back down. They back down when they get hit by Blessed. But Volkanovski's a different animal. He did not. And the second fight, very impressive start for Max Holloway. For the people that were here with me, I don't think I talked about it on Twitter because I was so excited about the fight. I thought Max won the first 2 rounds. Actually, originally, I thought he won the first 3 rounds. And I thought he won the fight. And then I watched the fight 3 more times because there was people who, of course, the controversy was Volkanovski won. It's like, wait a minute, what? How is that possible? We all thought Max won the first 3 rounds. Sure enough, none of the judges actually thought Max won the first 3 rounds. They thought, one judge thought he won the first 2 and the 5th. All of them said the 3rd came to Volkanovski. So I had to rewatch the fight. I rewatched it twice. This is before we had an episode with my boy Jesse Santos on here. We broke it down. He saw the fight with me too, and he was like, you know what? Damn, that's right. He did. He outstruck Max. Now, Marco, a lot of analysts, DC, who loves Max Holloway. Not every.
Most of them, like 90% of them.
That's not every. I'm just saying. That's not every.
All right, go.
Not every. Say otherwise. You guys want to argue that it's Blessed who won, and I'm arguing Volkanovski. So go ahead, make your case.
So I'm gonna start off with one thing. Judging in the UFC is terrible, and I'm just gonna put it out there. We can look at the numbers, we can look at significant strikes, we can look at a lot of things. But we're talking about momentum in fights and the way that changes throughout a fight. Significant strikes okay. He won the significant strike category by like 20 significant strikes. But the staggering shots that we saw at the end of rounds for Max Holloway was way more significant and way more damaging than Volkanovski had in all the rounds. The takedowns Volkanovski had at the end of the fight were meaningless, and they didn't really do anything because Max Holloway got up right away. So he wasn't controlling the fight that way. He wasn't controlling the fight with his leg kicks the same way. Max Holloway was piecing him up to the body, piecing him up to the head, which Volkanovski edged him a little bit with head strikes. But like I said, the significance and the damage that was caused by Max Holloway hitting him, and we know this is the MMA, but the eyeball test would have told you Max Holloway won. And from hearing Jose both times saying I had to watch the fight 4 times to understand, but this is a fan sport. This is all I'm looking at a fight and I'm seeing who has the more damage, who has this. You know what? This is not wrestling. This is not other stuff. This is the UFC. The way the judges score the fights, okay, like significant strikes, Volkanovski, okay, whatever. But even at that, it was still a close fight. And if you told me if I'm going to have to go to another tier to break down this fight and to have to choose someone, not just on striking up because it's fairly close on every sector, I'm going to go to what looked like who won using the eyeball test. And who had the most staggering hits? Those 2 knockdowns that Max had in the beginning rounds weren't counted as knockdowns for Max Holloway. I don't know why, whatever the case may be, that's what happened. 90% of the people that watch this fight say that Max Holloway won. I watched the fight like 3 times, shout out to ESPN Plus, and I still came out to the conclusion that Max Holloway. Now you can go with me because I'm a little biased. I love Max Holloway, but at the end of the day, I view these fights the way they are. In Volkanovski, when they were going to announce the fight or announce the winner and give the belt to the winner, Dana White was walking towards Max Holloway. The owner of the UFC was walking towards Max Holloway. That's all I got to say. Max Holloway, bless his best, and you were the best of me that night. That's it. That's my take.
Your argument cannot be Dana White knows best because Dana White has been wrong multiple times.
That's not what I said. If you heard the whole thing, you would have known.
Well, I mean, I'm saying that you think that it's because you named him specifically. You named him out of anybody that you could have named. You named that he walked already towards Max Holloway. So you think that his name made more value that Max won. That's not the case. Just because he believed it doesn't mean it's true.
Announcers too.
That doesn't mean it's true. Everyone said it was a close fight. Joe Rogan even said it. He said that it was a very close fight. He had to rewatch it too. He even said that Volkanovski won the fight by a small edge, and that's all it is, Marco. Yeah, you know what? I go with the stats too. Also with the eyeball test because he outstruck him 30 times. Over 30 times he outstruck him. You know what? Let me show y'all guys, or let me tell y'all. First round even. It was even on the strikes. I still give that to Max. Volkanovski outstruck him by 1 hit. More power hits from Max. I gave it to Max. Third, fourth, and fifth, outstruck him by over 10 times. He outbeat Max.
But you gotta understand.
He was accurate. He was accurate and precise. This is a per round fight, Marco. This isn't about who did the most damage overall and everything. Because we could argue Michael Bisping never defeated Anderson Silva. And that's not the case. It's a per round fight. Who won the rounds? And the rounds 3, 4, and 5, that was Volkanovski.
Okay.
He had this control. You had your argument about the takedowns don't matter. You're absolutely right. Max got it right away. The takedowns should not count as much as they do. But guess what? It's so hard to take down people that you still have to give them credit. That's still takedowns. Those are still hard to do. So I'm giving props to both of them. Hard to take down Max Holloway, and I'm giving props to Max for getting up. All props in the world. But Marco, the fight was starting to slow down Max did not keep up the pace he was doing the first 2 rounds. He should have kept up the pace. I'm not arguing with you that Max is the better fighter. I'm arguing who won the fight. I think Max is the better fighter. I think his heart and soul have not shown up until the Kattar fight, since the Poirier fight. Because even the volume that he did with Frankie Edgar was weak. It wasn't Max Holloway. It wasn't who we expect him to be.
Okay.
Blessed is best, right? So we expect, Max to produce what he did. Those numbers that he produced against Volkanovski, it's not the same that he has done.
All I'm going to say, and then I'm going to say it. If I'm jabbing someone in the face, and and my opponent is hitting me with overhand rights that are hurting me more, tell me who wins the fight. If you call them jabs as significant strikes, I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Marco, you're acting like Max didn't get hurt. Max got hurt. He got hurt. There's a reason Max was not putting the same
Not as much as Volkanovski?
He hurt him. What are you talking about?
Not as much as Volkanovski?
He hurt Max. So why is Max not doing what he did with Kattar and Ortega to Volkanovski? Why is he not putting up the same
Volkanovski got knocked down 2 times.
In the first 2 rounds, and I'm giving you those. I'm not taking that away. We're talking about rounds. What is the fight game? Is it rounds or is it about finish?
If you're watching fights and the other guy gets knocked down 2 times and the other guy's I'm sorry, that alone, like I'm not even
That's
talking the rest
a
of
round, Marco. Did he finish him?
Huh?
Did he finish him? I'm not arguing you that
But
he
Volkanovski didn't finish him either. Like
he outstruck him. He outpaced him. He won the points. That's the point. That's what all he needed to do. Max should have done the same thing or finished him. That's my argument. Marco, I'm not disputing with you that he beat him rounds 1 and 2 where he knocked him down. I am not disputing that. I'm disputing that Alexander Volkanovski, the UFC featherweight champion, outpaced, outstruck, out-hustled Max Holloway in rounds 3, 4, and 5. The stats prove it. He hit him 10 more times. Each round.
But that doesn't matter. The volume of hits compared to the significance of hits.
Yes, Marco, the significance of hits. It's right here.
No, but that's a variable stat. That's like looking at like I told you, like a jab, they count as a significant strike. But if I'm hitting you with almost the same amount with overhand rights and right hooks or left hooks,
And
It's a different kind of
if you're not
punch.
hitting at the same amount
It's
of
a
volume,
different
it
kind of
doesn't
punch.
matter.
It's a
Marco,
different kind of punch.
Marco,
That's all I gotta say.
He did not win.
That's all I gotta say.
Max Holloway did not win those last 3 rounds.
Okay.
If you want to argue the first 2, I'm not arguing.
He won that third round.
He did not win the
Yes,
third
he did.
round. He beat
won the
him.
third round.
He outstruck
He
him.
won the third
He
round.
hurt him.
He won the third round.
chased him
3
back.
rounds to 2. I'll even give Volkanovski 2 rounds. Barely. 3 rounds to 2. I had said 4. First time I watched it, I gave it 4-1. Second time I watched it, I said 3-2.
Oh, you are nuts. That's so biased. You are so biased on that. Nobody gave that fight 4-1 to Max.
It is what it
See,
is.
That's your bias right there. The fact that you said 90% agree with me. No, 90% said 3-2.
90% of people. Go look.
Dude.
Max says it himself. He said it. Look, I have nothing. And you know what? Max has nothing. Like, he like you said, he's going to prove it soon. And we're going to see it.
Yeah. I want to see that Max.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Ortega knocks the shit out of Volkanovski, honestly.
And Volkanovski could stand toe-to-toe with Max, and Ortega couldn't. So I think Volkanovski's going to win that fight.
We'll see what happens.
So,
right?
I mean, Marco, your argument is that Max said it. So, I mean, that's not a good argument. That's a terrible argument. And the fact is,
I think your arguments are not as significant as mine. So
because the numbers prove me otherwise.
Let's see. Hey, guys, down in the comments, tell us who won this debate.
You can say all the comments you want.
Yep.
I can show you the proof of who actually won.
We'll put it down. Who won it?
You know, because it wasn't Marco, guys. He's wrong.
We'll see.
He's upset. He wants Max to be the champion again, and he has a chance later on.
Yes, sir.
But I'm not arguing Max isn't the best. I'm arguing he didn't beat Volkanovski. I'm arguing that's his kryptonite.
I'm talking about Volkanovski.
The same way,
not kryptonite.
The same way Anderson Silva can't beat Chris Weidman. The same way BJ Penn can't beat Frankie Edgar. The same way Uriah Faber can't beat Mike Brown. That is his kryptonite. The one
and I hope
beat.
Volkanovski wins. I hope he does. So Max can knock him
I want to see
out.
this Max too. I want to see the Max that throws over 500, over 700 hits. I want to see that Max. But this fight, it's done. It was over. The winner and still UFC featherweight champion, Alexander Volkanovski. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. This was fun. Marco's going to believe his side of the story. I'll believe my side of the story. Clearly, I'm correct.
Hey,
numbers prove it.
Guys, all I'm going to ask, put it down in the comments. Who do you think won this debate?
And I'll show you guys the numbers.
We'll see y'all later.
Okay. Little Binge Sports, we're out.